Up there in the back corner. I see thumbs up there. Good. Everybody hear me? All right, good evening. Thank you for being here tonight. This is our third annual, right? It's our third annual 10th grade parent night. We've started doing more of these parent nights just to get you guys in. So something that you can look forward to in a couple of years is we just started this year our first 12th grade parent night that we do in the fall of 12th grade, just kind of getting ready for that last year, getting ready for graduation and all the things that come with that. So again, welcome to come. Welcome. Thank you for being here. One of the things that we do, the reason why we do these parent nights is we have a mission here at Hockinson High School, and our mission is that we are looking for all students to succeed to the best of their ability for high school and beyond. And so we're going to talk about all those things. We're going to try and hit things that pertain to all sophomores and that you're going to be dealing with in the next couple of years. And hopefully those are things that you can start to personalize your education, because we want it to be applicable to you, to your particular sophomore, to you guys as students. That's just for you. It's where you start to get to personalize your education a little bit. Up until this point, you've kind of just done what everybody does. And now you get to start making some of those choices. And some of those choices will lead you to decisions about high school and beyond. And what happens after high school, which we'll be talking about as well. So just by way of introductions, if we haven't met yet, my name is Mike Pace. I am one of the counselors here. What does it say up there? Oh, yeah, it says up there. I have last names L through Z. With us tonight is Brian Kimber, our other counselor, alphabet counselor. Last name's A through K. We have Jim Miller here as our college and career counselor. You can hear from both of them at some point tonight. Over here we got Josh Johnson, our associate principal and athletic director. And then Mr. Schoonover over there as our principal. So if we haven't met you guys before, here we are. So you know who we are. There's going to be a time at the end if you want to come and ask some questions of us personally, you can do that. And I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I think Mr. Kimber is up first.
All right, yeah, thank you all for being here. I'm going to go over a few of, these are just kind of nuts and bolts and things that I'm hoping you've heard before actually, but always good to hear some of these things and repeat because particularly this one, graduation requirements, because I always tell people this is kind of the student's roadmap to getting that high school diploma. So I always like to just go over that, make sure that students and parents too are understanding what needs to happen in order to walk across that stage at the end of senior year. So I'll just run through this real quick. So students all have to take 4 years of English, 3 years of social studies, 3 years of math, 3 years of science, 1 year of career technical ed, CTE classes, you'll hear us say that, 1.5 credits of PE, 1 semester of health, 2 credits of fine arts, and 2 credits of world language, and then 4 credits of miscellaneous. So you'll notice with fine arts there, in the world language, there's that asterisk that is next to the number there of 2 credits. And if, Jen, if you want to hit the next slide there. So it's a total of 24 credits that's required. The asterisk there, this is something that came about, I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago. The state implemented this personalized pathway requirements. We call them PPRs, just the abbreviation there. But PPRs are related courses that lead in to a specific high school career or educational outcome chosen by the student based on their interests and their high school beyond plan. That oftentimes will be CTE classes, but it's really intended to provide a focus on what the student wants to do after high school. So we do require 2 credits of fine arts, that's 2 full years. We also require 2 full years of world language, but students can substitute up to 1 credit of the fine art and or up to 2 credits of the world language for something else. So if a student has a particular career in mind, where let's say they don't need 2 years of fine arts and they want to substitute 1 year out for another class that pertains to what they want to do, we can work with them on that, or it could just be a half credit. And same thing for world language. That is one I caution people to make sure that they do their homework on the world language one in particular, because a lot of four-year schools, they want students to have those 2 years of world language. So 2 years of fine art, that I think I have yet to see a college that requires that. But those options exist. The key thing is, though, that by default, we expect students to get 2 credits in each of those things. So if you or your kids have any questions about that, you can always just let us know. Okay, next slide there. Additional requirements. So those are the credit requirements that we just went over. Beyond that, we've got the high school and beyond plan. That's something that students work on throughout high school, and them started actually in 8th grade. So it's been kind of a process. We were actually just in 10th grade English classes. Those of you that are students here probably remember seeing us just a couple weeks ago, I think it was. We kind of worked through some of that, through some of those things. So that's a process that will go on throughout high school, just helping plan for the next step. Complete Washington State history, typically completed in middle school. So if you went through the Hockinson system here, or any middle school in the state of Washington, you likely did Washington State history. It's counted through that. If that's not you, we will reach out to you, and we have other ways to help you meet that requirement. And then complete the math and ELA pathways. And you can go to the next slide. I'm going to unpack that one a little bit. So this is a pretty recent change from the state of Washington. There was some legislation that went through just this past year that modified some of the requirements that exist out there. It's always been the students have to take the Smarter Balance test, pass that, in order to meet those math and ELA standards. That is still an option, but the state also implemented some other ways to meet those requirements. So math and ELA, those are still, those assessment standards, those still have to be met, but they've just expanded the options there. So the number one option there you see at the top, and which this is the way that I would say 80 to 85% of students are going to meet the standard, is to, it says earn a level 3 score, but it can actually even be a high level 2, that's the graduation cutoff. But in general, 3 is the number you want to go for. Earn a level 3 score in the SBAC, math, and ELA, which you'll be taking at the end of sophomore year, so that's coming up. Other pathways include dual credit courses, so that's going to be your Running Star, AP, some of our CTE classes that are articulated, and we'll touch on those things. Earn a 3 or higher on related AP exams. Students can use SAT or ACT scores. And we have the details on all of these things. We're kind of giving you guys an overview of a lot of things right now. So if you have further questions about that, you can reach out to us. But transition courses, like Bridge to College Math, that's a math class we just started offering to seniors this year. So as you get to senior year, that may become an option for you. Combination of an ELA and math pathway, so basically you can use more than one of those things to meet those standards. The ASVAB is also an option, which we just administered recently here, but we try to do that from time to time. And then finally, Career Tech Education course sequence, which students can also use a certain Career Tech Ed pathway to meet that math and ELA standard. So, and then in bold at the bottom there, it says work with your school counselor to determine the best path for you and get specific details on requirements. So there's very specific scores you have to get on the SBAC, on the SAT, ACT, but you can, but the point here is that you have more options, more opportunities to meet those math and ELA standards. So again, this is, some of the things you're going to be getting tonight are a little bit of an overview of what to expect. We do a deeper dive on these things in other information sessions that you'll hear about, whether we do them or other places do them. But this is to give you an idea of what is coming up and what is out there. So along with that, so this is kind of a very broad overview of what to expect between 11th and 12th grade. Because there are a lot of new opportunities that come up. So I just wanted to give an idea of what things are going to look like at school for you. So in 11th grade, common classes, these are the classes that all juniors are taking. So you can expect to take English, U.S. history, and then a math and science. So those are, because the math and science, you're going to be completing your third year of those things. And then U.S. history is one of those required social studies credits. And then you need English all 4 years. Some of the AP options that open up are the English, language, and composition, biology, environmental science, U.S. history, computer science principles. So there's a few advanced placement options that come up. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little while too. But some of those classes are grade specific. The PSAT is coming up. Some of you may have actually taken it this year. It's usually 10th and 11th graders that do it. If you have any interest in trying to qualify for the National Merit Scholarship, that is, the 11th grade year is the time that you would do that. So if you did take it this year, that's fine, but if you're trying for the National Merit Scholarship, then you'll want to take it junior year, and that's usually in October. State assessment retakes if necessary, so if you take them your sophomore year and then you don't get the score you want, you have the option to retake them in the spring of your junior year as well. And then the WCAS, that's another acronym, which the next slide is actually just all about testing acronyms, but that's the science assessment that juniors all take in the spring, and that's for state accountability, so that'll be coming out as well. 12th grade, the common classes there, it's just English and contemporary world issues, so it's your English and your social studies. And then beyond that, it's really going to depend on what your plan after high school is, that'll determine what you want to take. The AP options for 12th grade year, you've got English, literature and composition, biology, physics, and environmental science, comparative government and politics, calculus, Spanish language, and computer science principles. So some of the same ones there. If you didn't take them junior year and you want to take them senior year, that's also an option. And then there are some that are just for seniors. Okay. So testing. We can kind of get lost in the acronyms in education, so I figured a slide just telling you what these things are and what they mean might be worthwhile. So like I said, the PSAT, NMSUT. I also put what these acronyms stand for because we say things like SAT and ACT all the time, and it's like, I don't actually know what that stands for. But PSAT, that's just the preliminary SAT, and then the NMSUT is the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. That's kind of the precursor to the SAT, which the last I could find is the Scholastic Aptitude Test, but what I also learned is that the SAT officially to the College Board stands for nothing. So it's just the SAT. And then the ACT, the American College Test. So these are both, SAT and ACT are your college admission tests. So if you're looking at going on to college after high school, most colleges are they're going to require a score from one of these two things. And if you're wondering what the difference between those tests is, do we have that handout here? Did we bring that over? Okay. If you're really interested, there is one that says, what's the difference between the SAT and ACT? They're both equally accepted by colleges. It tends to be fairly regional. I find West Coast, and I think East Coast too, is pretty heavy on SAT. ACT is going to be more in the middle of the country. They're both accomplishing the same purpose. They do have their differences, but in the last couple of years, especially in terms of scoring, they've really aligned quite a bit. So both options, sometimes if students are trying to get the highest score possible, they'll try both tests just to see if they can do better on one of them. But those are tests that are offered at a few schools throughout the Vancouver area. We don't offer it, but some of the bigger high schools around here do. All the registration is done through the websites of those tests, and they're done on Saturdays. The dates are set in stone by the College Board or the ACT. They do cost money, but we can help with that registration if needed if you have questions about that. AP is advanced placement, like I mentioned. Those are courses that you can take junior and senior year. And potentially take a test at the end of it to, if you get a high enough score, you might be able to earn college credit from those. But they are faster paced, a little bit more rigorous classes. The ASVAB, that's the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. So if you have any interest in pursuing military, they'll want you to do this so they can kind of find where your strengths are. The SBAC, you're going to be talking about that. That's a big state test that we do. It's our state accountability test, and then also can be used to meet those math and ELA requirements. That's the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium is what SBAC stands for, but we just call it, you'll hear it called SBAC a lot. And then the WCAS, that's the Washington Comprehensive Assessment of Science. Okay. So I'm going to dive in, kind of switch gears a little bit. Running Start, I imagine there are a number of you here that are coming because you were trying to get some information about Running Start, and that is fair. Because it's kind of a lot to wrap your head around if you haven't had any kids go through it before. So I'm just going to give you kind of that broad overview of it. We do have some more info, and we're going to have, at the end, we'll have some dates as far as we're doing a student information session next week, and then Clark does some information sessions for students and parents. They have several of them coming up, where they'll dive a little bit deeper. But Running Start, it says here, it provides academically motivated students an opportunity to take college courses as part of their high school education. So students can take one class per quarter, they can take all of their classes, so a very number of classes. We work with students on that. Take them on the Clark College campus, earning both high school and college credit for all completed courses. Classes are offered in person, online, or in a hybrid format. So this is where students are going as juniors, starting as juniors, to go take college classes at Clark. Students are treated as college students. Their professors don't know that they're Running Start students unless they identify as such. But they, when they're working with us throughout the process, we help them sign up for the classes they need to fulfill their high school requirements, as well as whatever their college goals are. So this is a way to get both of those credits. And yeah, they're offered in person at the Clark College main campus, Columbia Tech Center, or WSU Vancouver. Most of them are at the main campus, but they do offer a few classes at those other places. They do offer some online options too. We tell students to proceed with caution on that, but that is an option. The eligibility process begins in spring, so students can gain eligibility through a GPA of 2.75 or Smarter Balance scores of 3 or higher. There are a couple of other options that exist out there, but these are, I would say, 98% of students use one of these two measures to get in. And one of the things that I'll hit on in the next slide too is I would say keep those eligibility things in mind. If you are really on the fence with those eligibility things, it might be worth thinking about if this is going to be the best option, because they have those things in place for a reason. So I'll hit on that in just a minute. So information nights at Clark are on February 5th, February 5th, 24th, March 9th, and 24th, and those are at 7 p.m. You only need to go to one of them, don't go to all four, because you'll hear the same thing 4 times. But that is, that's a great way for you as a parent, especially. You can go there and hear from the people that are running the Running Start program. And they usually bring in some Running Start students to kind of get their experience as well. But that's a great way to get a lot more information on Running Start, and they'll kind of help start walking you through the process of how to do that. We also do a student informational meeting here, and that's going to be on February 5th during Focus, so that's next Wednesday. And what room is that? Do either of you remember? TBD. Okay, it'll be in the announcements. So, but if you are interested in that, that's kind of where we kick off this whole process of working with students individually to get you set up for that. So if you're interested in taking college classes, I would highly encourage you to come to that meeting next Wednesday. Okay, a few things here, and these are just some of the most important points that we go over with parents usually about if Running Start is part of the conversation as far as what might be happening next year. These are just some things to take into consideration, okay? And these are things that we tell students as well. So perhaps one of the most important things about Running Start that we need to know going into this is that parents will not have access to grades or professors. This is perhaps one of the bigger culture shock pieces of Running Start is that there's an awful lot of trust that's placed on students to manage their own academic well-being, okay? Also, I didn't include this in here, there are some other people that don't have access to these things, and that's us. So, for example, we just got a grade report for Running Start a couple of weeks ago. Those grades are a surprise to me, so I'm relying on a student if I see them at all, because if they're full-time Running Start, I may not see them at all. I can't access their grades either, so I'm relying on them to tell me how they're doing. So there is independence that goes with that, and students need to recognize that. Because along with that, classes are very fast-paced. The way the credit equivalencies work, students can earn a full credit, high school credit, so one full high school credit in the span of about 10 weeks at Clark. So I talk to students, especially juniors who go there for the first time, and they are caught off guard by how quickly things are moving. Where within a matter of 2 weeks, they're they're sunk in a class, so if they're not keeping on top of it. So that's part of that, being independent, being organized, managing your classes. No special consideration is given for Running Start students. They are seen and treated as college students. So professors aren't going to work with you just because you're still in high school, you've got the training wheels on, that sort of thing. They don't know you're Running Start. I did Running Start my senior year of high school, and I found sometimes it was actually to my advantage to not tell them I was Running Start too. But with that being the case, you don't get special consideration. You're treated as a college student, which honestly, for a lot of students that go to Running Start, that's the way they want it. They want to be treated as a college student. Okay, so those are all kind of negative things, I realize. So students will be able to create their own schedules. This is one of the more appealing things to students, is that they can set their own schedule. We work with students to tell them, here's the classes you need to take to meet high school requirements. We walk them through the Clark College website, because they go through and pick their courses. So you could pull up an English 101 class. We say, you need to take English 101. Well, there might be 50 different sections of that meet daily at 9 a.m., or it meets Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the afternoon, that sort of thing. Students get that flexibility, so a lot of students will work it around their part-time job or that kind of thing, or just their sleeping schedule too, for that matter. So it does allow a lot of flexibility in that regard, which is very appealing to students, for sure. With careful planning, students can concurrently earn their high school diploma and their associate's degree. For those students that are very motivated, this can be extremely appealing, the thought of getting 2 years of college out of the way. It does take careful planning with both us and with a college advisor, because we really lean on the college advisors there to provide that college advising, because that's just not our expertise. We can help with it a little bit, just like they lean on us for the high school advising. And then this kind of leads into the next thing, which perhaps the parents getting the most excited about this next point, which is that there's no tuition. So this is friendly on the wallet, because tuition is not cheap. Class fees and books are not covered, so that's still an expense to take into account, so it's not free at the end of the day. But tuition is the biggest part of that bill. So this is, for those that are feeling economically minded, this can be a really great program for the right person. Okay, and like I said in the last slide, not all students who are eligible will have the skills to be successful. Predictors of success include strong math and English skills, high self-motivation, strong study skills, time management, and self-advocacy. There wasn't some study that came out or anything that listed those things. That's pretty anecdotal on our part, but we've been doing this long enough with Running Start students that these are trends that we notice over time. I've seen students go in where they were well qualified for the program and it did not work out well. Because maybe they didn't have some of these things in place, they didn't realize what they were getting into. So we really try hard to work with prospective Running Start students to educate them on here's what you're getting into. And it is a really positive thing. Like I said, I did Running Start myself. I had a great experience with it, but it's just good to go in as an informed consumer. Okay? And I think that is it on my part. So I'm going to pass it over to Noah.
So one of the other ways that students can earn dual credit, both their high school credit and their college credit at the same time, is by taking AP classes. So AP stands for Advanced Placement. These are classes that students take here at school with their regular school teachers. The classes are rigorous, so they're college level classes. They're nationally recognized, so if there's a student here in Washington and a student in Virginia, they take the exact same test at the end of the year. And that is how students earn credit. So at the end of the year, students have an option of taking the test. They get a score based on 5 points, and then it's really up to colleges to determine if they want to give credit based on the score. So each college does it a little bit differently. Unfortunately, it's not uniform, so it's not like, hey, if you get a 4 on your bio exam, that means you get credit for Bio 101. It's just not uniform, unfortunately. So that's something to take into consideration as well. One other thing, you'll also see that it is noted on your transcript. So when students look at their transcript, there'll be a little A next to the AP courses. So when colleges see that, they know automatically that the student was enrolled in advanced placement classes, so the student was choosing a more rigorous route. One thing to know, this year AP moved to a fall registration, so that's really different. So in the past, Students took the class, and then towards spring, they decided if they wanted to take the exam or not. AP found, and College Board found, that with an early commitment, students did better. So if they committed to the test in the fall, then they were studying more, they were doing better in the class, and they ended up doing better in the test. So now students need to commit to the test by November. So that's pretty early in the year. All right, and then here's a list of our AP courses that we offer at the high school. So English for both 11th and 12th grade. For social studies, 10th graders could have taken world history, so some of you might be in that right now. At 11th grade, we have U.S. history. 12th grade is comparative government and politics. Over there on the right, you see a number of options. So calculus, biology, environmental science, physics, Spanish, and computer science principles. So lots of options. One thing that we get asked all the time is which one is better, Running Start or AP? And it's not that one is better than the other, it's that one might be a better fit for you and your student. They're two completely different programs. Some of the things are the same, like you can get college credit for both. They're both seen as being rigorous, so colleges like both of them. But there are differences. So again, it's not that one is better, it's just that one might be a better fit for you and your student. So we tried to break it down with some pros and cons for the both. So if you look over there on the left for Running Start, some of the pros, you get college credit just by passing the class. So unlike AP, where you have to take the class, take the test, and then pass the test, with Running Start, you get your college credit by passing the class. It does also allow flexible scheduling, as Brian was saying earlier, so you're spending less time in class, but again, that means that with all of that other time that you have, you're using your time management skills to study outside of class. You do also have the potential to earn your AA by the time of graduation, so those are all good pros for Running Start. Some of the cons, it is really fast-paced, so they're on a quarter system, so you're taking that class in just one quarter, and you do have to do a lot of your work outside of class. Some students really love that, so they go to class, they get what they need, and then they can work on all of their work on their own time. But for other students, that time management piece can be difficult. Some students feel like they might miss out on the high school experience. For some students, that might be a pro. So it just depends on your student. But know that you could also do Running Start part-time. So you don't have to be there your whole day. You could do Running Start part-time and still be here at the high school. Or even if you are doing Running Start the whole time, you can still be involved in high school sports, clubs, activities, all of those things. Sometimes the calendar does not match the high school calendar, so start dates and end dates, those are all different. Think about vacations, holidays. So we get out of school early June, they get out of school later in June, but they also start later. So think about that when you're thinking about your family planning. And then some of your credits might not transfer. So in the state of Washington, if your student gets an AA, that AA will transfer to all Washington public schools. But if your student is looking to go outside of Washington or to a private school, there's no guarantee that those credits will transfer. So that's important to know up front. So the colleges will look at the transcript, and then they'll look at what they offer, and they can pick and choose which credits they want to take. As far as AP, some of the pros, it's nationally recognized, so if a college sees AP on your transcript, they know exactly what that program is, they know what content you covered, and they know the test you took. You are also here at high school, so you stay involved in high school, you go to your classes like normal, you're here with all of your friends. It's a regular high school schedule. And then again, you do have the potential to earn college credit. One of the biggest cons is that you have to pass the test to earn the credit, so you don't get college credit just by taking the class. And then, as I mentioned earlier, colleges require different exam scores. So one college you might get credit for a 4, another college you might have to have earned a 5. So it really does vary from college to college. All right, one of the other options that you'll have next year is Cascadia Tech Academy. This is all of the local school districts work at Cascadia Tech together. So when students go here, they're with other students from all over the county. If you have a student who chooses to go there, they'll be there for a 3-hour block of time during the day. We just had an assembly not too long ago about Cascadia, and there are field trip permission forms. So we have a field trip coming up. on the 13th. So that's right before our 4-day holiday break. On the left, you can see all of the different programs that they offer. Traditionally, Cascadia Tech, it used to be called the Skill Center, and it was really just those hands-on things like auto, dental, cosmetology, construction. But they are really branching out, so you'll see other things like aviation, which they actually have an airplane hangar, and they have airplanes in there, pre-engineering design, IT. So it's more than just traditionally what people think of when they think of the Skill Center. Some of the other perks of going there, transportation is included. So their students need to be here in the morning. A bus takes them to Cascadia Tech. That bus does leave at 7:05. So it means that students that are going to Cascadia Tech have a longer day than most of our students. But they do earn industry certifications, so almost every program up there, they'll earn some of the certifications that they need to go work in that job. They also are articulated with colleges, so they will earn a lot of college credits by taking these classes as well as dual credit here at the high school, so they'll earn their CTE credit, as well as some other credits varying by which program they're in. And then one thing that students really like is that they're there with other students that enjoy the same things that they do. So for somebody that loves diesel tech, they might be here and not know many other people that love diesel tech, but they go there and they're with their people, and they're finally with their people, and they love it. So that's a real perk too. You can see the timeline up there. So again, we have the tour coming up, then we'll have applications. Applications are online this year, so that's new. So we'll work through that process. And then in March, students will find out if they got in or not. Okay, so articulated high school classes. These are mainly our CTE classes, but it's another way of earning college credit while you're in high school. So you take the class here with our CTE teachers. At the end of the class, if you earn a B, you fill out some paperwork and you get credit through Clark College. So it's another option. At this time, it's mainly just our business classes, so career choices, personal finance, and entrepreneurship. But we are looking to expand that in a couple other pathways. So stay tuned. All right, and another option that students will have is work-based learning. So this gives students the opportunity to leave school during the school day, go out into the workplace and work, or it can be volunteer work, so it doesn't have to be paid. We've had students that have done volunteer work at schools, so some people that are interested in being a teacher, they'll do work-based learning at one of the other schools for a couple periods a day. So that's an option too. A couple things. One, high school credit is earned by working 2 hours a day on the work site. Students do need to have taken career choices, or they can take it concurrently, so that's one of our CTE classes. And you also need prior approval. So students will see this listed on their forecasting sheet. It's something that they'll need to work with their counselor on, because their counselor needs to make sure that they're on track to graduate and that they have room in their schedule. During the very first week of class, students will be here. So we have a work-based learning coordinator. She's our business teacher. So students will meet with her during that first week to fill out all of the required paperwork through the state. There's a lot of paperwork and accountability that goes with work-based learning. So they'll work with her that first week, and then they meet with her regularly. She visits them on the job sites, and she collects their pay stubs, their work hours, their timesheets, that sort of thing, and reports all of that back to the state. All right, so the reason this is up here is because we just want everyone to know that high school graduation requirements and college entrance requirements are two different things. So earlier you saw Brian put up the big sheet of all the things you need to do in order to graduate, but colleges have their own set of entrance requirements. And we're pretty lucky here in the state of Washington that ours match up. So we're good to go. But if you're looking at going to a private school somewhere, or if you're looking to go out of state, you really need to look at what those entrance requirements are, because they might be different than what you need just to graduate. So you might need to take more world language, or you might need to take a 4th year of science or something like that. So just something to know. And then also in the state of Washington, you have to have at least a 2.0 in order to go to a public university and take the SAT or the ACT. All right, so I'm not going to talk a whole lot about money for college. I'm not going to go into, like the difference between all the grants and the loans and those sort of things. But the things that you do need to know right now are ways that you can be preparing to earn scholarships and the things that you can be doing. So the number one thing that you can do is what you see up there. The higher your GPA and test scores, the more money you will receive. So the majority of the money that students get in scholarships comes from colleges themselves. And that's going to be based on your GPA and your test scores. So if you look at this chart over on the right, I only picked this one because it was big and pretty and easy to decipher. I think this was from Arizona State for out-of-state college students. So up at the top you have test scores, going down the left you have GPA, and then in the middle you have the amount of scholarship money awarded. So you see if you had a 4.0 and a 1420 on your SAT, your scholarship will be $35,000. And then it goes down towards the lower end. But they still do give scholarships. So if you got a 2.75 GPA and 1,100 on your SAT, you'd still get $2,000. It's probably not enough to offset paying for out-of-state tuition, but it's something to consider. So I just wanted you all to see that that really is the best way. It's the best way to earn the most amount of money. So as you're in your sophomore year and you're still working on all of your grades, do try to keep them up. Think about that GPA and those test scores. The other thing that you can do is volunteer. So one of the other main requirements for scholarships is based on volunteer hours or your extracurricular things. So hopefully as a ninth grader you had a chance to join some clubs and some activities, figure out some different things that you like, and now you can start investing your time in that in one or two of those things. So you don't need to be involved in lots of things. Pick one or two passions and do that. And then when you're filling out scholarships later, those are the types of things that you can talk about. These one or two passions, these one or two ways that you were investing your time and volunteering. The things that you see down there on the bottom left, that's kind of new. So there are a couple of things that you can be doing right now. So you can be earning what are called micro scholarships. So Raise Me is one of the places you could do that. You go online, you create your portfolio, and then students enter information like their current GPA, different things about school, and then they get these little micro scholarships at different colleges. The other one is through the College Board, so it's the same thing. You go and create a profile. You can put in your SAT scores, your PSAT scores, and then they give you, again, little micro scholarships. As far as sophomores go, there's not going to be a whole lot of scholarships right now that you can apply for, but one thing to keep in mind, especially, this is more towards like your senior year, I do advise students, you're going to look at the institutions that you're applying for, so they're going to have those big scholarships based on your GPA and your test scores, and then look local, so you're thinking of things like the Elks Club, the Rotary, your banks, your credit unions, because you're going to be going up against a fewer amount of students. So look for those things that are local to Clark County, or even to Hockinson, with the Hockinson Foundation ones, because their chances are just greater. So they're smaller amounts of money, they're going to be like $200, $500, but your chances of getting them are so much greater because you're going up against so many fewer students. And then you can look at some state scholarships, and then if you have time, you can go look at the national ones. But remember, with a national scholarship, you're going up against thousands and thousands of other students, so your chances of getting them aren't as great. So I would really make sure it's a good match before you take the time to apply to them. On Schoology, I have a College and Career Center group, so in the resource section, there's a list of scholarships. So as you're looking and starting to think about scholarships, you can open that up, kind of cruise through it. They're listed chronologically and see if anything matches up to you.
Okay, just a little bit more on this. I know we've been talking at you for a little while. Appreciate you guys sitting here. I know it's a lot of information we're throwing at you. I've got the last few slides here. I want to get through this. One of the things that we talk about is we have a lot of good athletes at this school. And so when Jen was talking about scholarships, I know some of the idea comes, I'm going to get a scholarship by playing sports, which is a great opportunity if you can do that. I think that's awesome. But there's a couple of things I want you to think about with that. So one of the things I want you to think about is schools. Because people don't think about it. People think about, oh, we have a student going who got a full ride to UW or something like that. And that doesn't happen very often. But I think some of our students would be surprised at how many graduates we have who are playing sports at the next level, just at maybe a different option, maybe a smaller college, maybe junior colleges. And some of those are good ways to earn money towards school. Because a lot of schools might give you money, and some of the smaller schools that really want you to come play sports are willing to give you some money to come play sports for them. I was just talking to a senior today who is thinking about going and running cross country at George Fox, which is a small private school in Oregon. But they have money to give for running cross country. And so those are things to think about with that. There are things you haven't heard of. This list right here that I put in there, small schools you may not have heard of, because some of these I had never heard of until I have students who are going there. Carroll College, Southwest Minnesota State, Northwestern College of Idaho, St. Mary's, Minnesota. Those are all schools where we have Hockinson graduates playing sports and getting part of their tuition paid for to play sports at those schools. So I think that's pretty cool. A new one I learned this year, I have a student who's going to play lacrosse next year at Adams State College in Colorado, which was a good one for me. So some of those you might want to think about, even the sports that we don't offer here. I know we have students who are involved in other sports like lacrosse or rugby. There was a rugby meeting earlier today. Think about sports like that we don't even offer here as a school, but you could get money to go participate with that. I have a few students who have joined the rodeo team at certain colleges. And I learned a couple of years ago when I was doing some research for one of my students that Walla Walla, used to be community college, now I think it's Walla Walla University, has the top rodeo program in the United States, which is pretty cool. And I just learned it. So it's things you don't necessarily think about, okay? And even if you don't get money, I like to always say that you should think about not giving up playing, because a lot of schools, part of what makes college fun is getting involved, and that could be doing an intramural or a club sport. Myself, when I went to college, I grew up and I'm a volleyball player, but there's obviously no boys volleyball around this area. So I went to college and was able to join the college men's volleyball team, where I got to continue playing volleyball on just kind of an intramural club level. So that was fun. And that's things, because if you want to play sports, you have to think about more than just being good. Okay? Yes, they want you to be good at sports, but they will not overlook some deficits academically. Especially Division I, Division II NCAA schools have some very strict guidelines. Okay? They have some very strict guidelines up there. Division I, Division II, they have something called core classes. Core classes are math, English, science, social studies, and world language. And you need to earn 10 core credits by the end of 11th grade, which if you're on track here, you should get no problem. Because you've already, by the end of 11th grade, you've taken 3 years of English and 3 years of math and 3 years of science and probably 2 years of social studies. So you're good there with those. And 7 of those have to be English, math, and science, which I just said were fine. If you're doing on track, then that's 9. And then you got to get 16 overall. 16 overall core credits. And so I'll talk about something else here in just a second. But D3, they set their own things. They set their own academic standards because they don't offer academic scholarships. But who does offer athletic scholarships? I should mention that. Athletic scholarships is NAIA schools. NAIA is usually those smaller private schools. Some of those schools that were listed on that last slide that may have the sports you want to go play at, those might be smaller NAIA schools that can also offer you scholarships. So one of the things we want to talk about is because we have athletes who are thinking about, okay, I'm going to do the minimum I need to graduate, and sometimes that doesn't get you eligible, just doing the minimum you need to graduate, okay? One of the things we ran into this year is some seniors who were not taking the right amount of classes their senior year because they ended up with, oh, I only have to take English and social studies, so that's all I'm taking. well, they needed one more core class and they weren't taking a math or a science or a language or anything that counted, and they weren't going to end up being eligible. And even if you're a really good athlete, if you're not eligible, college is not going to want to take a year off of you being eligible. So that's something to keep in mind. Earlier, I heard Mr. Kimber mention that Bridge to College math class. So Bridge to College math class is a transition course, counts as a math graduation pathway. So it kind of takes the place of that math Smarter Balance test. And that's something that if by the end of your junior year you have not passed the Smarter Balance test, then we put seniors in that math class. Well, we found out this year, because it's our first year offering it, that NCAA does not recognize that as a core math class, because it's basically a review class, it's not new information. So we had some students who were taking that thinking they were taking another one, and then we had to move some stuff around and get them in things. So that is one, if I can give you a little motivation, if you're an athlete, to get all that stuff taken care of so you don't have to worry about bridges, the Bridge to College math class your senior year, that is my advice to you, okay? So that's that about sports. If you have questions about that, you can talk to me, Mr. Johnson, our athletic director as well. All right, so again, we talked about all these things. We talked about classes, we talked about what you need to graduate, we talked about AP, we talked about running start, okay? But let's talk a little bit about how you can get some help, okay? Because you want to finish this year out. We're only halfway through, right? We're only halfway through your sophomore year. We just started second semester. But there are some opportunities. One of them is that learning center in the library. If you are struggling in any subject, most of our students use the learning center during focus for math, but that is not the only reason you can go in there. The learning center, they have tutors there that are really smart in lots of subjects. Lots of subjects. So go in there, get some help. We also have a writing center. We have a writing center where you can go in and get help with your papers. We've had students who are later on, junior, seniors, they're working on maybe scholarship applications where they're, after an essay, they're working on a college application. They're getting people to proofread their stuff in that writing center. That's one thing. And then make sure you're using that focus time. Use your focus time to get help if you need help from a certain teacher. Go find your teacher. A lot of people use focus and just kind of goof around or think it's a brain break or whatever. It is a perfect time to take care of the things you don't need to, especially you athletes or anybody who's involved in stuff outside of school. You know how busy your lives are, right? So if you can get stuff done during school in that half-hour day that we give you every single day, then take advantage of that. Not everybody gets that, and that's great. The other thing we do, just talking about some of the supports we have as far as the adults around the building. Mr. Kimber and myself as school counselors, we are charged with each of us half of the alphabet, helping you guys with not only academic things, but career things, along with Mrs. Miller, and personal social issues. So there are some things that kind of sometimes get in the way of being successful in school. As I like to say, sometimes just life happens. And when life happens, sometimes it's hard to focus. It's hard to focus on what's going on. And so if you need somebody to talk to, if you need somebody to problem solve with you, if you need somebody to just sit with you, sometimes that's what we do. And that's what we want to be there for, is to be that support for you, okay? And then we also have a great intervention prevention person for students who are maybe battling, drugs and alcohol themselves, or they're involved, they're interacting with people, they have friends, relatives that are as well, sometimes with those impacted individuals. We have a great person who's here to help with those issues too, and she can help with that. And then mentoring. Most people don't know this because we kind of keep it in-house, but at the beginning of the year, and then a couple times throughout the year, we have a list of all the students in the school. We're just under 700 students here in the school. And we put all the students' names on a list, and then we give it to the teachers. And teachers go and put their names next to students that they feel like they have a relationship with. Because one of the things we want to do here at Hockinson is we want to develop those adult-student relationships to where if there's anything happening, there's an adult out there that can support you. And we want to make sure there's always an adult that can support you. And sometimes there's 2 and 3 names, and you may not even know, but those are people who are kind of looking out for you. I'm talking to students now. Those are people who are looking out for you. And just so you know that there's a lot of adults around here that care and that we want to help. And so please let us with that. All right, next. Oh gosh, what happens when things go wrong? Because things do. Like I said, life happens. Okay? Maybe you failed a class. Maybe you got a bad grade. Maybe your GPA your freshman year wasn't very good, or maybe first semester this year, and now you're looking to kind of bounce back second semester. One of the things we did, I think it was Mr. Kimber that mentioned that we were in 10th grade English classes a little while ago talking about high school and beyond plan. And with that, one of the things we did is we showed all the students what a transcript looks like. Maybe they hadn't seen it, some hadn't seen it before. But we showed some like senior transcripts. And we talked about the fact that your transcript tells a story. It tells a story about you. Whether it's to a college or to a trade school or to a scholarship you're applying for, it tells a story. And sometimes that story is good, and sometimes the story is not so good. We showed an example of a transcript that was a good story because what it showed is that a student didn't do so well their freshman year. They were down there in the 2-point range. I think it was like 2.2, 2.3. So their C's and D's their freshman year. And then sophomore year, it was like a 3.0. And then junior year, it was like 3.95. And so we were talking to the students about, what does that say about you? That says that you had a rough start to high school, and you started to figure things out. And that tells a story right there. I was telling a student just the other day, I said, it's not how you start, but it's how you finish that matters. It's that trend. We like to see that trend upward. And colleges like to see that trend upward if you're trying to impress a college. Even employers like to see a trend upward because you're figuring things out. And we understand that there's going to be some setbacks because they're teenagers and they make mistakes, right? And stuff happens. But there are ways to take care of that, okay? We do have a credit recovery program that we do here at school. It's some information about it up there. We do that during focus. If there is a failed grade, because we want kids to get back on track towards graduation. Of our goal, Mr. Schoonover, was it by 100% by
2022.
By 22. And you guys are the class of. You hear that? Pressure's on. Pressure's on. That is our goal. So we are going to be working with you guys. That is our goal, to get to 100% graduation on time by the time you guys are seniors and graduating from us. Okay? And so that's work for us and that's work for you. Okay? So that's credit recovery, and I talked about improving. Go ahead. Now, what are some tips? You can open all these, but for students, pay attention. Don't just pay attention to your teachers, which of course you should be doing anyway, right? Because you all are, I'm sure. Pay attention to your teachers, but pay attention to Schoology, pay attention to the announcements, and you see what I put on there? Pay attention to your parents, okay? Okay? Parents have great advice. Your parents have all been through high school, okay? It may look different now than it did then, but they've been through this. They've been teenagers. They have some wisdom for you. So, students, pay attention to your parents. Another thing, behavior. Get on your teacher's good side. This is one of the things, and I think Mrs. Miller talks about this too. Eventually, you might want somebody to write you a letter of recommendation. Whether it's for a job or for college. You might want somebody to write you a letter of recommendation. Somebody who's going to be on your side. Okay? And how do you get on a teacher's good side? Well, you show up to class and you do what you're supposed to do. That's really all you need to do. Okay? It's not that hard. Be consistent. Be consistent. It's really hard. Sometimes we get these stretches, like we're coming up to a stretch here where we're going to have a few weeks of, oh my gosh, 5-day weeks, where we're going to have to go to school. And last week was weird, but we're going to have these 5-day weeks, and then we hit that stretch, right, from spring break to Memorial Day. And that's a huge stretch, and it's spring, and the weather's starting to get nice, and you really don't want to keep doing those things you've been doing. But that consistency is the key. Keep up with that. And then get and be organized. And I don't say that there's one organization system that everyone should use. It's just whatever works for you. But I really like the old adage of fail to plan is planning to fail. All right, one more thing, and it's tips for you parents. Okay? One of the things you're doing is you're here. You are here learning about what your students are going through and what's going to happen for them for the next couple of years. So show up to the conferences. We got conferences coming up again that week right before spring break. Last week of March right there. Come to conferences. If you don't have a referral conference, yay, that means your student's doing okay. But come to the arena conferences. Pop around, talk to the teachers. Find out what's going on in school, and come to their activities. Whether they'll admit it or not, they like to see you there. Okay? Sometimes they won't admit it. So stay informed. Check Schoology. If you're not on Schoology, if you're not sure how to get on Schoology, which is where we keep all the grades, then stop by the school. We have people here who can help you get set up with that if you need that. Skyward has a few bits of information. One of the things is attendance. Final grades are in there, and then there's also a section where you can look at grad requirements or in academic history, so you can see if your student is on track to graduate from there. Another one is just have conversations. Talk about school. Talk about life. Okay? Don't just talk about school. Don't just say, I tell parents all the time, don't ask them what homework, or do you have homework? Okay, do you have homework is a yes or no question, and the answer is always going to be no. Okay, don't give them a chance to say no. One of the things I tell parents all the time, I said the magic question is, what school-related work do you have to do tonight? And school-related work could be anything. It could be Tuesday night and you're studying for a test on Friday. It could be, you know what, my backpack's a mess and I need to dump it out and clean out stuff from September. That could be school-related work. Some of our teachers have reading requirements, right? 10th grade English, some reading requirements. Maybe school-related work is just reading, okay? But have those conversations. Have those conversations. And then don't be afraid to contact us. Contact the adults. Contact their teachers. Ask how they're doing. I was just talking to some parents the other day about contacting even on a weekly basis. On a Friday email with the teachers for a student who might be struggling, saying, how did they do this week? Okay, if there's questions, email the teachers. If you're not sure who to ask or whatever, email counselors. We're a great point of contact, Brian and I, and we are more than happy to help you. And if we can't answer the question, we'll direct you in the right way. But please, stay in contact. And don't wait until their senior year, which you guys are not doing because you're here. So good for you. All right, so final thing, just want to remind you of these things coming up, because these are things that a lot of you are here for. Again, we're going to have a Running Start student meeting next week. The 5th is what day? Wednesday? Yeah. So the 5th next week, we're going to have that Running Start student meeting during Focus. And then remember those Running Start info nights at Clark College. Remember Brian said you don't have to go to all 4 of them, just go to one. Okay? They have a tendency to be packed, especially if you go to the early ones, like the one next week. February 5th, 24th, March 9th, and 24th. The Cascadia Tour, again, coming up February 13th. Get signed up for that. Permission slips were over there if there's still some left. For that, the application deadline is the 28th, which is not the end of February. Okay. Forecasting. We will be in classrooms that week, actually the 10th grade. Thursday, I think this is the 12th. Yeah. So I think we're going to be in sophomore English classes that day. So parents, that's the week we're going to be forecasting. If you want to know what your students are signing up for, ask them. That should also be available on Skyward, I think. And if not, you can ask us, we can tell you. And then we were going to be doing Running Start advising meetings, so anybody who indicates through forecasting that they might be interested in doing Running Start, we're going to follow up with them. And what we do is we do little group work sessions in March and April to look at that and to help them with the process, because it's quite a process to do that. Okay? So that is it. I appreciate you guys coming. Some of us are going to be sticking around. Mr. Kimber had to take off, so he's not here. But if you have questions for us individually, please come up and ask, call, email. Thanks.